Thank you for joining us today. We are in for a treat. If you have joined us on any of our previous webinars going back to the end of 2023, we've been riding this wave of AI. Artificial intelligence is here to stay. It's not a fad. It's only growing more and more pervasive in use by nonprofits of all sizes. And what's great is that no matter your level of comfort, the first thing I always like to say is don't be scared. A lot of times people have trepidation towards it. They really aren't sure exactly how to use it best. Thanks, Katie. I see you're joining us from St. Pete. I'm a resident, born and raised in St. Pete, grew up in Seminole, so nice to see a fellow Pinellas County resident joining us. But with AI, it's one of those things where you just need to jump in. You need to get your hands dirty and figure out how best to use it for your organization. And what's amazing is that the possibilities are really limitless. So what I always like to say is identify what, and the word's problems, but there are no problems. There are opportunities for solutions. So what are you trying to solve? Now let's reverse engineer that and come up with a solution using AI. That can be in any facet whatsoever, in many different levels too. So with today's topic, and let's jump into this PowerPoint. So we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence and the role that AI plays in sentiment analysis. Now, this is like a little headier topic than we've had in the past. We're not really going to go so much intro level, but really showing like full power, and like this is where my nerd flag flies. So how you can use data, and as a nonprofit, whether you're a 4-month-old nonprofit or whether you're a volunteer in this sector or you've been with an organization for 15, 20 years, data is key. Data drives everything. It drives your decisions, whether that is in communication strategies, whether that's in fund development strategies. But having clean data is really the root and core of your organization. Because how do you know, A, who you're going to ask, and B, how much do you know to ask them for if you don't have good data? So that's a little bit about what we're going to be, covering today, but more so how we can use these tools, and particularly ChatGPT. If you haven't heard of ChatGPT, it is pretty much the front runner right now in the world of AI tools. It's like the Kleenex, the Xerox, the Tylenol. It's that brand leader. While there are tons and tons of different GPTs out there, which is actually the tool that you can talk to. And when I say talk to, it's a natural language processing tool. So the more you speak to it in a natural flow, as opposed to very robotic, you're going to get more intended outcomes for what you're trying to do, because it's based upon contextual features. And the way you speak to it, it's going to pick up on that and properly give you that output that you're looking for. So what you're actually typing into the GPT, in this case, ChatGPT, those are your inputs, and having clear inputs with clear defined outputs are going to help you get to what you want. Keep in mind, 99% of that time, the first output that you're going to get generated is not going to be your final output. You're going to have additional iterations. You're going to have some different tweaks. You're going to say, you know what, I like this, but let's try something a little different. But my number one caveat, and if you walk away from anything today, do not copy and paste directly into your final document what you get from your output. Why? You need to think about these tools as a really highly skilled, unpaid intern that, while they can do a good job, they need their hands held. They need to give you their output, but at the same time, you need to make sure it's in your organization's tone, its proper brand voice, and so it feels authentic to who you are. So a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Josh Hirsch. I'm the senior strategist here at Sukup Strategic Solutions. We are a nonprofit consulting firm based in Naples, Florida, with clients all throughout the Southeast and across the country. We've been around for, going on almost 12 years now, which is crazy to think it's been that long. And I'm very fortunate to not live in Naples, but live up here in St. John's, and still can make a great impact. We have staff that's all over the Southeast. Our consultants are based all over the country. So no matter where you are, we're able to work with you on all aspects, from board governance, fund development, communication strategies, strategic planning, grant services, and our new line of service, which is AI consulting. And we're going to talk a little bit about that some more. I'm also adjunct faculty at the fundraising school's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University. This is a great opportunity for me to give back in some sense to continue to educate those nonprofits of all sizes, because I could never be like a teacher day in and day out, but give me an opportunity like this webinar, give me a 90-minute to 3-hour session through one of our courses at the university, and you're going to walk away and ideally have learned a thing or two that you can directly put into action for your organization. And whenever I present, that's my goal. I don't want to always talk about theory. I want to show you how things work and give you direct actionable items that are going to make a difference today. Another fun fact, visited the Grand Canyon 3 times. If you have never been there, it is jaw-dropping. Like, you see pictures online, you hear, oh, it's a Grand Canyon, but until you're actually there and you're just like standing on the rim, and you're looking all around and realizing like how this was all developed over thousands and thousands and thousands, it's just unbelievable. So if you're ever in northern Arizona, I highly recommend you go to the Grand Canyon. When you leave the Grand Canyon, you're going to go stop at the Cameron Trading Post. You're going to have a Navajo taco, which is fry bread with all the accoutrements on top. It's incredible. Then head a little bit north, go to Page, Arizona, and you can go to the Horseshoe Canyon. Love it. Arizona, one of my favorite places in the country. Definitely recommend it. And also, I'm very fortunate to serve on the Association of Fundraising Professionals Florida First Coast Chapter Board. When I first entered the world of fundraising, gosh, back in 2007, which is forever ago now, I'm dating myself. I reached out to a good family member, friend, and was looking for advice. And he said, you need to become a member of AFP. And didn't know much about it at the time. I went to a summer networking event and was automatically roped in. I got, pulled onto the board. And it was the best opportunity I've done for my career, because I've now had this massive network of colleagues all over the world, because AFP is a membership organization of 25,000 plus people all over the world. And anytime I have a question or need advice or help, I know someone to reach out to. So that's my advice to you. Become a member of your local AFP chapter, go to an event, check it out. It's incredibly powerful. So to start off today, I think it's important that everyone has their own brand. You see my little avatar down here, but more so, what is your own personal brand? And that's a question that I want you to think about. And how are you going to visualize that through a GIF? So for me, it would be the Macho Man Randy Savage in all glory, back in the days when WWE, or at the time WWF wrestling, was the it thing. He was a king, and I like to embody that energy. So this is my own personal GIF. So I hope that you today can walk away thinking about what is your own personal GIF. So as far as learning objectives, and we're going to cover a lot, like I said, this is a little heady stuff because we're going to be talking about data and sentiment analysis and how the world of AI can really play into it. We'll be starting off with what is emotional intelligence and layering that on, what donors expect nowadays. So our first learning objective is looking at how AI and sentiment analysis can take this data, and that data takes a lot of different forms, whether that's testimonials, or if that is surveys, or just even straight like comments on social media, even like hearsay conversations, how we're able to take all of that data points and using AI to do it efficiently and effectively create power, and power for your organization that you can really harness. And harnessing these tools to really create better donor relations, you can tailor your communications, and more so looking at the impact of your campaigns or programs. You're able to create personalized donor journeys using AI and sentiment analysis at scale. Something that, while you could have done in the past, it would have been very laborious, very time consuming, and really not at the level of where we are now using these tools available to us. And lastly, how can we use sentiment analysis to integrate into our overall strategic planning process whether that's, like I said, fund development, communications, or as such. All right, now it's the interactive portion of the show. So what I want you to do is on either your phone, you can scan that QR code, or on your phone, you can go to slido.com. And let me open up the share window here. So what I want you to do is answer this question. And like I said, you can go to slido.com and you're going to enter in code 3171211, or you can scan that QR code. And I want you to answer, when you think of artificial intelligence, AI, what words come to mind? And I'm going to play along as well. Now let's get that scanned. All right. And I always like to start off my presentations this way, whether I do something in person, whether I'm doing it webinar like this, because it gives me a sense of where is everyone's mindset? What are we talking about today from your perspective? And it also allows me to, dispel myths. Like, automatically I see someone writing scary, and while I understand it can be scary or intimidating, it is a huge tool, that's available in your arsenal. So some people will say that it's cheating. Well, I don't think it's cheating. It is a digital assistant. So thank you for whoever answered that. When you think about something like Excel, all right, and you're taking your social media analytics for the month and you're tracking your engagement rate, you're tracking, your impressions, all these things, we need to use these data points to help drive our communication strategy, which at the same time can help drive our fundraising strategy, where you're not going to figure all those analytics out by hand. You're going to take those and put them into a tool like Excel, run the formulas, and you're going to be able to have a ongoing process to track everything. So I see someone wrote invasive, and I'm curious if in the chat, whoever answered that wants to, respond why they think that, because I don't see it as invasive. I see it as a way that is making our lives more efficient, more effective, and we can be better fundraisers and better nonprofit professionals because it is allowing us to save time, but at the same perspective, giving us a almost second brain to work with. So yes, 100% it is personalized if done correctly. So we can't just assume that whatever that output that we're getting from our natural language conversation we're having as we're typing in, it's going to be finalized, but it's not. So it's really important to make sure that however we talk to this and our expectations are being met. So thank you for everyone participating in that. It really helps me get a better understanding of where everyone is on this topic. And let's jump back over to our slides. All right, so let's start at the beginning. So emotional landscape in nonprofit management. Big words, what does that all mean? So really, we've seen this shift over the past several years on how donors want to engage with nonprofits. Donors are smarter. Donors are more informed. Donors are doing their research, and they really want and are seeking a deeper, more personal connection with the causes they support. As a donor, you have a limited number of philanthropic dollars. So you want to make sure whatever you invest in, and I'm using that word invest because donors are the heroes. Us as a nonprofit, we're just there to carry through with the wishes of the philanthropic support that we're getting from our donors. Our intentions might be to do X and Y, but if a donor comes along and says, I want you to do X and Y, and this is why I'm going to support it, and I want to not only support it, but I want to know how I'm supporting it. I want to know what are those end results. I want to see, touch, and feel. This is the level of where we're at now. So being able to communicate with our donors effectively really makes a difference. And this emotional resonance is becoming as important, if not more so, than the cause itself. So as far as the role of how emotional intelligence comes into play, at its core, emotional intelligence is how are we understanding and managing not just our own emotions effectively, but personally as well as in others. In the nonprofit sector, emotional intelligence is crucial. It's at the core for building strong relationships with our donors and understanding our community needs. It's also really important for understanding our constituents. we want to best be able to serve our clients, our constituents, word is interchangeable, and at the same time fostering a supportive environment for them. As I said, our donors are more educated. The modern donor journey for when someone makes their $10 donation, it's not transactional like it used to be. It's really something more along the lines where donors are wanting transparency, they want empathy, and they want alignment with their own personal values because they've chosen your organization to invest their hard-earned philanthropic dollars in. These positive emotional experiences can lead to increased donor loyalty and advocacy. And what's the best thing that you can have as an organization? Well, it's a donor out there in the community that's talking to their network saying, you know what? I've invested $10 in this organization and I believe so much in what they're doing. And they're showing me what they're doing and they're letting me hear, see, touch, and feel the impact that my donation is making. As much as marketing and communications that you as an organization can put out there yourself, it pales in comparison to when someone unaffiliated, even if they are a donor, is out there talking about your organization. That is the goal that you're looking for. And at the next level, we have this world of digitalization that we're living in. So because we have the always connectedness with our phones, it's putting this increased need for emotional connection and how we're using these online interactions to drive our connections with them. So nonprofits are shifting to find innovative ways to emotionally engage with their audience in this digital space. So using AI, it's getting to the core of what you're able to do much more effectively. So AI and sentiment analysis, it's really simply enough. It's the tools that are going to take these responses, these online interactions, like I said, the feedback that we're seeing in testimonials, which if you're not on a semi-regular basis, and whatever semi-regular means to your organization can be different, but if you're not surveying your donors and at the same time surveying your constituents, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to understand, well, I gave you $10 to help feed, the homeless, and that's great, but I want to give you more money, but you're not really getting at the core of why I'm connected to your organization. Using survey data, it's going to allow you to find out this information and at the same time create a specific strategy to connect with them on a personal level, as well as drive your overall organizational strategy. So it is really the benefit driven from this. It's going to lead, like I said, to stronger relationships, more effective campaigns, and a deeper understanding of your community and whatever you define as your community. That could be where you live. That could be your community of donors. That could be your community of constituents. These organizations that are harnessing this and really taking it to heart are going to be much more effective in driving and reaching what they're trying to achieve. So what are the fundamentals of sentiment analysis? So, and I hate to read directly from the slide, but sentiment analysis is a method used to identify, extract, and quantify subjective information from the text. So they're putting it out there to you, but it's digging deeper to find the emotional tone and those key words that are allowing us to identify their perceptions, their attitudes, their emotions of what they are saying about your organization. So what are those components of sentiment analysis? We have polarity detection, emotion detection, and intent analysis. Polarity is from a negative, neutral, and positive. And when we get into this in a few minutes, we're going to use some sample donor sentiment data from surveys and looking at identifying using tools such as ChatGPT. How do we identify these polarities, these, the sentiment itself, whether it's negative, neutral, positive? And at the next level, what are those key words that are helping us to identify that, to find these emotions within their responses? And then lastly, what is the intent behind the sentiment? Are they giving you positive praise, or are they saying, listen, I had a really bad experience with your organization. I wanted to donate more money, but because of the experience I had, I don't know if I should. Using sentiment analysis is going to allow you to find out this information and then, based upon it, create strategies to be much more effective. In an ideal world, we have no negative and neutral sentiment. Everything's positive, everything is glorious. We know that's not always going to be the key. So, how can we make sure that we're properly addressing these negative and neutral sentiments? And at the same time, looking at our positive sentiment, what are we doing right? How can we replicate that positive experiences for one donor, two donors, 20 donors on a much larger scale and replicate that from different aspects of our organization? So, what are those benefits of AI? Or excuse me, AI sentiment analysis. So, as I said before, it's about efficiency. It's about really taking a much more laborious project and process and really drilling down deep at how we can do this. And I'm going to show you like that, how it can be done. And then also like the level of data that we can analyze at this level using AI to do it. And then finding these trends. So for the last 30 minutes or so, we're going to jump directly into ChatGPT itself. And if you've never seen ChatGPT, well, this is what it looks like. Um, there are two levels to it. So you have the 3.5 model, which is the free model that is available to anyone, and then you have your 4.0 model, which is a subscription-based model. But everything we're going to do today is in the 3.5 model. Using ChatGPT, it's almost as if you have additional staff members on your team. Even if you are that small nonprofit that is 4 months old and you're a staff of one, you can do so much more to reach your donors, to make your intended results much more in line with what your hopes are. So to start off, and when you have it, you have all these different conversations, these different threads. These are all different conversations that I've had with ChatGPT to really work on various projects. Now, what's important when you are working on a project to stay within one conversation. Why? Because we're training it. We're teaching it to think and act like we want it to, and it will continue over time in an ideal world, get better outputs because it's constantly evolving. It's constantly learning from what you're teaching it. So the science behind everything is called prompt engineering. Whenever you start off a prompt, you want to do what's called persona pattern generation. So you want to teach ChatGPT who it is you're talking to. And the way I do that is always starting with a simple phrase, act like. By saying act like, I'm putting blinders on ChatGPT to think in a specific way. So for this purpose, I'm going to say act like a data scientist who specializes in nonprofit organizations. You are a 30-year veteran of the nonprofit sector and a subject matter expert. Now, I've experimented around with, the time frame. Are you a 5-year? Are you a 50-year? 30-year is really a happy number because that means that you've been dedicated as an employee. You've seen a lot of change in the sector. And with that, you've evolved the way you think. So that's why I always pick this number of 30 years. When you're playing with it yourself, and like I said, if you've never used ChatGPT before, go out there. And actually, if in the chat, if you want to answer, if you are currently using AI for your organization, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. And I'm sure others in the chat would as well. So using these tools, how are we going to create that persona? So act like a data scientist who specializes in nonprofit organizations. You are 30-year, spelling would help. You are 30, and so that's a good point. So you saw that I had a typo here. I had 30 years. because it's contextually based, grammar doesn't necessarily matter. I can have typos. It's picking up on what we're talking about as opposed to necessarily nitpicking on that. So we're going to put that S back in there, and it's not going to affect what we're doing here whatsoever. So you're a 30-year veteran of the nonprofit sector and a subject matter expert. You are well respected by your peers and have published multiple journal articles and present at conferences nationally. You have written a book on data analysis for nonprofits and are very passionate about helping nonprofits become more effective by utilizing their own data. All right, so I'm going to hit enter. And what's kind of always exciting to me is I never know what I'm going to get. So while that's generating its initial output, let's see here. Let's see. Trish is not currently. You have a communications manager who does it. John Moe is using AI for help with stories for social media. It's a great use. Mary's dabbled, has been helpful for editing purposes. Absolutely. I love it for editing purposes because I could sit there and, especially when you're working on a grant application and you're limited to 500 characters and you know what, you're at like 525 and you have to like try to bring it down a little further. You could say rewrite this in a 400 words at a 7th grade level, and it'll get closer to exactly what you're looking for. So that's great. So RuPaul is using ChatGPT for summarizing. Absolutely, I'll use it for summarizing like podcast episodes. There's a great YouTube Chrome extension that I'll use that can sit there and automatically will transcribe, and from that I can then create our summaries. And Carrie hasn't used it yet, so I'd love to see the various aspects of where people are. All right, so thank you for humoring me on that. It's always nice to see where people are with their AI journey. So with this, whenever we do the initial act like, for some reason, it always wants to introduce, itself to me, and it gives me a little background. So now we have the right mindset of where we want to go. So to start off, we're going to do two things. First, we're going to look at how do we design a survey to get at the heart of what we want. So we need to determine what our goals are for that survey. So for this purpose, this data scientist works at a no-kill animal pet shelter based in Houston, Texas. So you work at a no-kill animal shelter based in Houston, Texas. We are trying to determine the overall sentiment from our constituents. I need help drafting a survey we will be deploying to get their feedback. This survey should be no more than 10 questions long and include multiple choice answers as well as open-ended questions. Draft a survey that meets these needs. So let's see what we get. So certainly I'd be happy to help you draft it. So first, it's asking for demographic information, which I think is important. It kind of gives us an idea of where they are as far as a potential donor, as well as where they are from an education level. So that's good one to probably leave in. Learning about our shelter, how do they first get connected to us, I think is good. And then we're getting into a Likert scale, 1 to 5. How satisfied are you with our shelter services? Probably could break it off into like even further down of talking about the various different services. Then we're getting into adoption experience. Please describe your experience with our adoption process. What did you like and where did you think we can improve? That's a really powerful question because at our heart of what we want to make sure these animals are getting back into the community. So I like that one. How would you rate the cleanliness and hygiene of our shelter facilities? I think that's also a good one, because we want to make sure that we're maintaining quality care for our animals as well as quality outward experience for those that come. Let's see. Do you have any suggestions or comments regarding the care and well-being of the animals in our shelter? I think this is an important question because we want people's opinion and feedback. Any good fundraiser would tell you, ask for, a potential donor's opinion, ask your questions, and, you're going to get more wealth of knowledge and information that's going to help you to even get a more larger potential gift. Donations and support. So now we're moved on from programmatic. Now we're moving on to fundraising. Is there anything specific you'd like to share about your experience with donating or supporting our shelter? I like that because we can learn from that, as far as let's say you are someone who's in this category of, 25 to 34, and you don't get any mail at home because no one gets mail, anymore. It's a very rare thing. So I want to be communicated with either SMS, text messaging, or I want you to email me. And if you constantly are sending me direct mail pieces with the perforated tear off to send in my donation and have me use a stamp, who is stamps anymore? Like, that's going to fall on deaf ears. So making sure that you are asking your donors the way they want to be asked is even better than just assuming this is how everyone likes to be asked for donations. So I like that question. And then we get on to events. Have you attended any of our shelter's events or activities the past year? And then leave it a little bit more open-ended. Then we get into communications. How can we improve our communications? Once again, asking for improvement, which gives us that sentiment and intent, looking at that tone, and then additional comments. So I think this is good. Once again, I would not take this straight at face value. I'd want to refine this a little bit more. So, for example, this and whenever I'm talking to ChatGPT, because I do use that word talk, I'm going to praise it when it does something good. I'm going to admonish it when it does something bad. So it can learn from me because once again, it is contextual natural language processing tool. So this is a good first draft, but could be better. I need more questions regarding fundraising in the survey. Redraft this survey, but leave off the questions regarding demographics. If you need to increase the question count to 15 in order to cover all of the donation related questions, you may do so. All right. So let's see. We get our services, and then we get more into some donations. How often do you make donations to our shelter? I don't think we need that question because if we have a good database, we're able to track that. So that's not really going to get to what we're looking for. How much you donating, once again, that's not really getting at the heart of what we're trying to do. Preferred donation channel. So this is good. I think that this is important because if someone is going to donate to you in person or donating to you online, acknowledge them that same way. Like that falls in line with it as well. How would you rate the effectiveness of fundraising communication? Okay. Fundraising impact as an open-ended. So these are a little bit better, more in line, especially if we're looking at just fund development style. Let's say this is good, but we need to now focus on program impact of the shelter. Redraft this survey and include 5 questions focusing on the adoption process and care of our animals. Okay. So once again, Likert scale here. I think for something like this, Likert scale data is good, but obviously open-ended questions give us much more feedback for what we could potentially look for. So looking at success stories, post-adoption, I think is good. Did you receive, resources from our shelter? So this is good. I just want to show you at a quick high level. Yes, there's things like SurveyMonkey that are out there and they kind of like pre-populate and can help you. But using ChatGPT, you're able to create a custom survey in a matter of a few minutes on different perspectives. So if you want to say, this is good, but I need a survey that is specifically targeting our volunteers. We have over 500 volunteers that work with us on an annual basis, and we couldn't do what we do without them. Redraft this survey and focus on their experiences with our organization. So as I believe it was RuPaul was talking about how they're using, so RuPaul says ChatGPT can't go to Google links. Yes and no. If we were in the 4.0 model, it does allow you to access the internet, and it can actually bring in external links. It can actually go out there and search. So for example, if we just start a new one here real quick and we jump over to 4.0, we could say, I need to know the score of last night's Tampa Bay Buccaneers football game. Once again, I could do that on Google, but we're going to see right here, doing research with Bing. So yes, in the 3.5 model, it does not have access to the internet, but on the 4.0 model, it does. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won their game last night against the Eagles with the score of 32-9. Give me a 4-sentence summary of the game. So it's doing some more research. Here's a link itself. If I open up this link, it's going to show me a summary of the game and all stuff about it. And it's finishing its search. So while you are right, RuPaul, on the 3.5 model, on the 4.0, you do have much greater power, as greater access to tools within ChatGPT that OpenAI, which is the company behind it that creates all the amazingness that we do. So it's really, really powerful. But I really like to, on our webinars, just try to focus on 3.5 because not everyone might have access to the 4.0 model. It's about $20 a month for a subscription, and I tell you what, it's the best $20 you'll spend a month. So you can see that it's able to sit here and give us a little summary of the game. All right, back to our friend nonprofit data analysis. All right, so we've got our volunteer survey that's put together, looking at the various roles. Once again, that can kind of be good. If we have a great database, we already know, but be able to link, those responses. So if we see that, people that are participating in our adoption events are all having a similar sort of response, whether that's negative or positive, then that can kind of drive us in the right direction, whether we want to move in one way or another. So this is good. So you can see really on the fly how we're able to not only create a survey, but make it very personalized for that intended audience that we're trying to go after. All right, so now it's data time. So we conducted a survey, and let's pull this up. So we surveyed our constituents. We surveyed donors, volunteers, and adopters, as well as board members of our no-kill animal pet shelter. This shelter doesn't exist. These responses don't exist. This was all done through AI. I created all this for this specific example. Now, using the 4.0 model, you can actually upload files. You can upload images and have it do image analysis and give you feedback. It's pretty wild. But for our purposes, and really the easiest way is just copy and paste. So I can sit there and copy and paste these responses, and we can bring that over into ChatGPT itself and drop it all right there. So these are our responses, but now we need to give it the instructions. So below our survey feedback responses from 30 individuals. They comprise either a donor, volunteer, adopter, and or board member role within our organization. We need to determine the overall sentiment of each person's response. These responses fall into either a negative, neutral, or positive sentiment category. In a table, or sorry, let's back up. So create a table that identifies the individual, their response, their sentiment, and the keywords that helped identify the sentiment. Let's hit enter and see what happens. All right, so this is good. So it listened to me. It actually did what I want. So I wanted to do a table because that's how I like to process data. So we can see we have donor, and then we see that their response, I donated money to the shelter, yada, yada, yada. I wonder if it's in order up here. I'm curious. Yep, so it just went straight down here. I donated money. I volunteered at the shelter. So, yep, I volunteered at the shelter. So it's just going right from top to bottom. It's identifying the sentiment, whether that's negative, neutral, or positive, and then those keywords that helped identify it as such. All right, so that's initial data. We got it in there. We've been able to quickly, just like that, look at whether it's negative, neutral, positive. But more so, we want to find trends, because trends help us to see what's working, see what's not working, and we can build upon our strategy from there. So first off, we're going to say, whoops, this is great. It is exactly what I was looking for and where I want to start from. And so it's happy to hear that it's what I was looking for, and that the summary was helpful. So next, we need to identify trends amongst our responses. From the negative responses, identify particular trends and what helped to determine these trends. See what happens. All right, so we're looking at specifically negative, because positive is great, but we want to move everyone from negative to neutral and neutral to positive. So first, it's saying lack of transparency in donation usage. Several negative responses from donors expressed dissatisfaction due to a perceived lack of transparency regarding how their donations were being used. And then specific, keywords such as never saw any updates, not sure where my money was actually going. These are all indicating concerns about the use of donated funds. And that's not what we want. We know that based upon emotional intelligence, that these donors feel a much greater attachment and need to be invested in our organization. And if they don't feel that they know where their dollars are going, well, they're going to go find somewhere else to support. So that's a big red flag we need to address. And then dissatisfaction with the impact. Often mention feelings of ineffectiveness or disappointment making a difference. And then specific keywords: wasn't making a difference, animals were stressed, staff seemed overwhelmed. And there's ways that we can address that. And these are specifically coming from our volunteers. And our volunteers, we can't live without those 500 volunteers. Looking at various adoption challenges, animal health issues, overcrowding and lack of attention, environmental concerns. So it's important to note that trends are based on specific keywords and phrases found in the negative responses. So that's why, while Likert scale response data is good, really open-ended data is going to get much more so in line with what we're looking for. Addressing these trends may involve improving transparency and donation usage, enhancing volunteer training and support, addressing adoption, managing, improving communication, and addressing environmental concerns. Identifying these trends provides valuable insights for your organization to address specific areas of concern and work towards enhancing the overall experience for donors, volunteers, adopters, and animal shelters. All right, so let's, we've got about 10 minutes left, so let's just take one of these and let's, talk about lack of transparency of donation usage. This is really helpful for me to see and work on creating strategies to rectify these issues. Period. And let's just hit that. Delighted to hear that. If you ever need further assistance, whether it's developing strategies, analyzing data, or anything related, don't hesitate to reach out. Well, we're going to reach out. So let's address the first concern, lack of transparency in donation usage. Our goal is to improve upon these concerns and move those who responded in a negative sentiment and to be neutral and then eventually positive over the next 6 months. Now let's draft a communications plan that utilizes direct mail, email, web, and social media to move these individuals from negative to neutral to positive sentiment, period. This plan should be open for revision and updated throughout the next 6 months. Let's see what we get. Creating a comprehensive communications plan to address and transition individuals from negative to positive sentiment is a great step. This plan will involve utilizing multiple communication channels over the next 6 months, and it should remain flexible for adjustments as needed. So here's a draft of the plan. Stated our objectives: improve transparency in donation usage and shift negative sentiments to neutral and then to positive. So we have it broken down by direct mail, email, website updates, social media. I like that it's, create a dedicated transparencies page that offers detailed information on how donations are allocated, recent success stories, and financial reports. Absolutely. If you don't have a section on your website that makes financial data easily accessible, as all nonprofits do, we have to file a 990. So having those 990s available for ease makes a big difference. I'm always impressed when nonprofits have that data very easily be accessible on a financials page, as opposed to me having to go to somewhere like, I'll say GuideStar, which is now Candid, but going to Candid and pulling those, or going to, I was a ProRepublica, they can also pull them for free. But that's important. It's talking about having regular monthly blog posts on transparency related topics, showcasing the impact of donations. I mean, this is what people want to see. You want to know how their $10 is going to make a difference in the life of a shelter pet. So that's really important as well. From a social media perspective, sharing the success stories, infographics, behind the scenes content. And then we could go even the next step further. So, and I like this. So monitoring adjustment, regularly monitor donor sentiment through surveys and feedback forms. So we're going to continuously survey our respondents to make sure to see how we're doing, looking at what our key messages is, that donations are making a tangible impact on animals' lives. And then at the end of each month, we're going to assess and do our evaluation. So this is great. So this is a good start, but let's dig a bit deeper and focus on our email campaign. Over the next 6 months, we're going to send 6 emails focusing on the impact of both the donors' philanthropy and the lives of our shelter pets. Create an outline for what each email should talk about monthly. So month 1, the power of your philanthropy. We have our subject line, your impact, changing lives of one donation at a time. Month 2, transparency in action. This is where we're going to start building trust through transparency. Transparency update, how your donations are making a difference. It's giving us bullet pointed messaging to focus on. Month 3, we're going to humanize the impact of sharing stories of shelter pets. So heartwarming stories, meet the pets whose lives you've touched. Awesome. Actually, we're going to use that as an example for the last few minutes. This is a great outline. Let's focus on month 3. I like the idea of sharing stories of pets' lives who have been touched. Draft an email from the perspective of Sparky, an Australian shepherd, may have spelled that wrong, who has been rescued from our shelter. This email should have no donation asked, but simply have a call to action to sign up to attend a adoption event. See what we get. Sparky's second chance. Join us at our adoption event. Wolf, my name is Sparky, and I have a story to tell you that's filled with hope and happiness. I was once a furry resident at the shelter, but thanks to your compassionate people like you, my life took an incredible turn. Just a few months ago, I found myself at the shelter, unsure of what the future held for me. Through your generous support, I was able to provide me with care, love, and attention. I'm thrilled to share that I found my forever home. And I probably would have spelled that Fureber, forever. All right, so really, like, I just threw a lot of stuff at you over the last 45 minutes or so, trying just to give you an idea of the power of what sentiment analysis can do, how you can really dig deep into this. See, RuPaul had a question. Can I have 2 ChatGPT accounts, free for work and paid for personal use? Absolutely, RuPaul. That is not a problem whatsoever. You're just going to have it linked to your email as such, but that's definitely not a problem. So yeah, definitely that's one way to do it. Whenever I present a session, this is how I hope to leave you. So if I have not achieved that, then please reach out to me. I would love to chat further to see how we can get you from how you are now to this stage. If you want, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to scan the QR code and reach out to me on LinkedIn. Would love to have some further conversations. I'll hang out for a few more minutes on here and to answer any questions. RuPaul, I really appreciate that. That was great to hear. And I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong. Carrie, thank you so much. It was my pleasure. This was absolutely John Mo. And good luck with your organization. I know that starting off can be intimidating. If anyone wants to, chat further, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can get it on a call. I could nerd out about this all day long. You can see that, how literally that hour just flew by, and we just touched the surface of what you can do. But at its core, clean data, open transparency with your constituents to get their feedback, constantly be surveying them, and then use those data, use those responses to help make your organization better. So thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to you joining us on a future webinar. Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. There's so many uses, CF, on using ChatGPT. It's just like at the top level. Yeah, my pleasure, Stephanie. Let's see. I want to, while we're just hanging around, let's see. RuPaul, my fundraising friends are very worried about ChatGPT and are looking to not use it. Well, you know what? Tell them to give me a call and I'll convince them otherwise. Because right now, AI is everywhere in the nonprofit sector. It's going to only make your fundraising friends more effective. Because I tell you what, most organizations, or I shouldn't say the word most, a lot of organizations are using wealth screening tools. They're using it to identify, take their donor data, say, okay, I have this set of data of donors and want to identify their giving capacity. And they're working with third-party organizations with a vendor to do their wealth screening. All those wealth screening companies are using AI to help achieve this. I don't understand why there would be trepidation against using a tool like this, because there are so many things that you can do with it. Let's just jump back over here for 1 second. I want to see if I can find something I was working on. Let's see. I can't find it right now. Data privacy. Okay, so that is a good point. I know there was concern about data privacy, but actually within the tool itself, you can opt out of having the tool be trained on it. How is this different from Grammarly? Grammarly is a great tool, something that I use, but all that Grammarly is helping you do is make sure that you're using proper grammar. It's not going to help you write a letter. It's not going to help you analyze your data. Grammarly is a must. I encourage everyone to install that Chrome extension. It's going to help you write better letters, but it's not going to help you write personalized donor letters based upon the interests and sentiment of your respondents. So that's how this differs from Grammarly. It's night and day. Grammarly is AI algorithm at its core, but it is nowhere near the same category as ChatGPT. And if there aren't any other questions, I want to wish everyone a great afternoon. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, drop me an email, and let's chat further. I'd be happy to jump on a call and see how we can help you use AI better for your organization. Have a great day, everyone.